Irving. We're tied at 127. What a shot!
They had a guy get hot at the right time. He sent it to the second overtime.
Free ball. There's another one! Colin Sexton absolutely sizzling from downtown.
Statistically, the worst offense in the league, worst shooting team in the league. Shoot 50% from the three on that many attempts. You know, you got to give them credit. They knocked them down.
And that's Kevin Durant. And as a result of Colin Sexton's 42 points in Kyrie's return, the Cavs knocked down the Nets 147-135 in double OT. More on that coming up in our SportsCenter update at 6:30 a.m. Eastern. You heard the call there on WTAM. Not to be underplayed here. Again, in a loss, James Harden, Jay, had another triple-double. Another one. But the bottom line is it's the 2 point guards that are the big story this morning. The one that returned and the one that outshined the guy that returned.
Well, so Colin Sexton, that boy was on fire last night, Key. I don't know if you ever had this hoop-wise. It's an out-of-body experience. It almost feels like he's hotter than cayenne pepper. But I've had this multiple times playing in the course of the game where, Bill Cartwright came up to me one time. I was like, Jay, did you see the basket on that last shot you shot? I was like, I didn't see the basket. It didn't matter what I put up. The ball was going in. The ball just found a way to hit the bottom of the net. And that's what was happening last night with Colin Sexton. Like, you go back to the 2018 draft, like, I always felt like he was different. No doubt about it, he's shining this year. And it's proven to be, he is the person that we thought he could be. Now, on the opposite side with the Nets, this doesn't really concern me, them losing a game, right? LeBron James, D. Wade, Chris Bosh, they lost their debut. Kevin Durant, Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, they lost their debut. The only thing that's kind of concerning is that they gave up 147 points. And that's the one thing we're going to be paying attention to as it relates to this team. We know they can outscore people. We know they can, go on 20-0 runs. They have the scoring power to do so. But their ability to get stops down the stretch, who's going to be that guy? Who's that guy that you say, go get him, Colin Sexton. Go get Colin Sexton and stop him. That's going to be the question. 147 points against one of the worst offensive teams in the league. That's concerning.
No doubt. It's Keyshawn J. Will Zubin. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. All of our guests just this morning will join on the Goodyear hotline. It's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Key, a couple of stats that just have to be mentioned with Sexton. This might be the most amazing NBA stat of the young season. Colin Sexton, you ready for this, fellas?
Yes, I am.
Scored 15 points in the second overtime alone. He scored 15 points in the second overtime. As for the other point guard, Kyrie, quote, 2 overtimes for my first game back. You got to love NBA ball, though. I was smiling when Colin Sexton was making those shots. We should mention Kyrie because it was a double OT game. He did get up there. He played 48 minutes in his first game, Key, in about 15, 16 days. He hasn't played since January 5th. He was only back at practice on Tuesday.
Well, he's clearly in professional sports shape. I mean, he's a true athlete. So 2 weeks off, 3 weeks off is not going to do anything to his conditioning. The thing that amazes me, though, he comes back and he drops buckets and he plays as long as he did, 37 points. It just seemed 28 shots. It just seems like a lot to me for a guy coming back. And as I said before, when they assembled this group of three, I said, you know what? Yes, it's great. It looks good. But you can't outscore everybody. You're going to have to play some defense.
Couple stops.
Got to D up.
And that is going to be the concerning part as they move forward. They're going to gel. They're going to get together. Jay Will mentioned it a minute ago saying, hey, the other teams that have assembled superstar talent have lost games along the way, first game, second games along the way, and eventually that core will figure it out together once they start to practice and understand it. But you got to stop somebody. You got to be able to play defense on somebody, because what will happen is these coaches, as Jay knows in the NBA, will expose your weakness. When you start to go up against some of those teams that have guys that can put you not only on the perimeter but also off the dribble, pounded down low, how can you counter that? I mean, and that's a lot of the times in Mike D'Antoni's system. Well, I don't want to call it Mike. Well, I guess you can, right, Jay? Call it.
It's like Steve Nash, Mike D'Antoni system.
Okay,
yeah.
So with this style of play, as we've seen in the past, high volume, high shooting, a lot of scoring, but on the other end, no defense. So again, you cannot outscore everybody. You've got to play some defense.
It's going to be common practice that these guys, between the three of them, are going to be averaging around 65 to 70 shots a game. Like, that's a given every game. Last night, Kyrie Irving also was returning to Cleveland, where he won a chip. So I think there was a little extra motivation there. But just let me tell you one quick story, Zubin, about Colin Sexton. Go back to his college days at Alabama. He was playing against Minnesota. Everybody on their team fouled out. They were left with 3 players on the court.
Do you remember?
Colin Sexton was one of 3 players, Key. It was 3 versus 5. I thought they were going to cancel the game, but they continued to play the game. Colin Sexton dropped 40 in that game, and they almost won.
So wait,
they almost
3
won.
on 5?
3 against,
The game
3
was in
against
Brooklyn.
5.
The game
Key.
was in Brooklyn. Yeah.
I've never seen this before. He dropped 40, and they had a chance to win the game down the stretch. That's who Colin Sexton is, though, just to remind people. I know he plays for the Cavs, but that boy can light it up.
3 on 5, that sounds like a practice drill, Jay.
Exactly. And he was, Key, I'm telling you, they had 2 cats on him the whole time. He was just taking, it was like 1 versus 5. He wasn't passing to nobody. He was dropping 4. I've never seen anything like it before in my life.
I think he's going to continue to develop, especially as they get some stability in Cleveland.
You gotta love NBA basketball, bro. So, we definitely tried to come out and compete. I myself was just doing my best out there to pace myself, and just I know that, it's going to take me a little minute to just get up and down a few more times. But, I'm excited. I'm just excited for the future. Cleveland threw a lot of things at us, to start the game. They threw zone. They forced us in some positions that, were just a little uncomfortable. And I turned the ball over in the first quarter. We had a few turnovers and we limited in the second half, but they scored 20 points, in the second OT. I don't know many teams that could put up 20 points in 5 minutes, but they did, and Colin got hot. So I give the young fella credit, and I give that whole Cleveland team credit tonight. They came to play.
You talked about how your teammates have had your back. First game in 15 days for you. How did it feel emotionally to be back out there with your teammates?
Man, always playing the game that I love. I'm grateful. So I never take it for granted. And then also to be, playing with Kevin Durant, James Harden, just those names alone right now, just like we're having some fun, but it's not just about us. And I always say that, we'll have good nights, we'll have great nights, but it's how we galvanize this group together and how we sacrifice and compromise for the greater good, and that still remains to be seen. Obviously 1 game's out the way, but I'm excited for what's to come.
Brian Lewis, New York Post.
Hey, Kyrie. 2-part question. I'm curious. I mean, obviously 7 games that you didn't play. How did you feel? It's a lot of minutes that you logged. How did you feel there? And when you look at the defense and the overtime, was part of that, you think, just fatigue overall, or was that just being unfamiliar with each other?
Man, that's just being human. Honestly, we've come together. I've been away for a while. The team's been doing incredibly well. So definitely wanted this first one as a group. But like I said, you got to give Cleveland credit to a certain degree. A lot of opportunities that we had to extend the lead or take control of the game. They came back and hit a 3, or they came back and responded, and they responded all night. And, it's just one of those nights, and you got to give credit to them. And then for us, we just take accountability for what we could have done individually better. And then collectively as a group, we'll watch film tomorrow and see where we can get better. So
Greg Logan, Newsday.
Kyrie, as you said, you guys have to take responsibility for the loss. But at the same time, the big 3 scored 96 points tonight and scored 42 of the last 57 points, Nets points tonight. So what do you say chemistry you guys showed first time out of the block?
Hey, I think any one of us would definitely take a win over all those, just great stats. Those sound incredible for a first game out for a few great teammates, just first time touching the floor. But like I said, we're not so much consumed about what we can do. We're more or less responsible for, like I said, putting these pieces together and making it work. And offensively, it clearly wasn't enough tonight. We still needed to get stops on the other end. So that's going to be the tale of our season, is how committed are we to that end of the floor. moving forward. And like I said, these are just words, you know, until we meet it with actions and we go out and do the little things and we prepare a little bit better. You know, and I don't say that to mistake my words. I'm just saying as we prepare better moving forward, you know, we just kind of throwing in these last few days. So just putting it together and we just got to keep smiling and having fun. Like I said, I was smiling when Colin Sexton was hitting all those shots, man. Like it was one of those nights for him. You know, he gets an offensive board, they tie it, you know, they're down 1 now. KD hits 2 and then he hits a 3, they tie it. It was just like one of those nights, you know, and being back in Cleveland, it was rightfully so one of those type of games, you know, like, hey, back and forth. So